Filipino State University, molding minds, shaping future.
Good afternoon, everyone. We would like to acknowledge our participants from India. Of course, we have Dr. Pragyan. Good afternoon, Doc.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am. And of course, welcome to our sixth series of our 2-month-long faculty exchange program between our university and the School of Education at Damas University. And kindly, please mute your microphones during the lectures. And of course, we have our university president, Dr. Hermenegildo F. Samuel Jr. Sir, good afternoon.
Hello.
And some officials of our university. At this moment, we shall now have our national anthem of the Philippines and India.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Kayang maghihil pero sa silanganan alam ng puso sa ngiti mo'y buhay lupang hinirang doon ka nang makiting sa manlulupi di ka pasisihin sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit o buhaw may nilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na naglilingling ang bituin at araw niyang kailan pang may di madidilim lupa ng araw na alwalhati pagsinta buhay langit sa piling mo ang ligaya na pag may mataapi ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Our first two codes are IL. Again, our first two codes are IL. Okay, our third and fourth codes are SA. Again, our third and fourth codes are SA. At this moment, to introduce to us our lecturer for this day, may I call on Dr. Jamina Kamayang. Ma'am Jam, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Michael. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our friends from Bahamas University, headed by Dr. Pragyan, and all of the faculty and staff of Bahamas University with their students. And of course, our university president and all of the officials who are with us this afternoon. Good afternoon to all of you. And of course, with our practice teachers who are with us this afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to present to you our speaker this afternoon, who will be discussing to us the authentic assessment. Let's do it. He is the architect and engineer of Quirino State University, one of the experts in authentic assessment. He is no other than our dynamic and efficient QSU president, Dr. Hermenegildo F. Samoy Jr. Let's give him a virtual clap.
Thank you very much, Madam Jamina Kamayang. Our friends from India, our students and the faculty members of Quirino State University, good afternoon, magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Before the pandemic, that was even 6 years ago, I have introduced authentic assessment in Quirino State University, where all the faculty have gained working knowledge, or shall I say, we have added the knowledge of the faculty and of especially the Faculty of Education on authentic assessment. Now, with the occurrence of the pandemic, I believe that we have maximized the use of authentic assessment at our university. So let me just share my screen. Authentic assessment, yeah. Well, the task that was given to me today is to share with you authentic assessment. Okay. All right. Let's do it. So, well, before we proceed, let's have a short quiz, and you can give your answer to the questions by the chat. Okay. Now, the first question is, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Is assessment the same as evaluation? Yes or no? Key in your answer.
No.
All right, let us see. Oh, I like the answers. Yeah, you're right. Assessment is not the same as evaluation. Thank you. Next, let's see. Can assessment happen without evaluation? Key in your answer. Yes, it can happen without evaluation. Okay, so let us see. Next question. Oh, is assessment meaningful without evaluation? Iskapasin said no. Alfredo says no. Let us see. No. Assessment can never be meaningful without evaluation. Does assessment include giving of tests? That's the next question. Yes, of course. Okay. Now, let's see. The next question is, can assessment happen before instruction? Very good. Yes, it can happen before instruction. Even without you giving the lecture yet, you can have the assessment. Okay? Let's find out. Next question is group activity an assessment? Is group activity an assessment? Let us see. I disagree. A group activity is not an assessment. It is an activity. Very good. Angelica. And everyone who answered no. Is making a portfolio an authentic performance-based assessment? Have you done portfolio before? Okay. So portfolio making is a form of authentic assessment. Are all tests graded? Are all tests graded? Of course. Okay, the answer is no. And then, can students be involved in as assessors of their own learning? Yes or no? Yes, very good. Okay, so, oh no, okay. All right, so good afternoon once again. My presentation would be outlined this way. We'll have assessment versus evaluation. And then what is authentic assessment? What are the features of authentic assessment? Let us find out the difference between traditional and authentic assessments. And then how do we plan authentic assessment? And of course, part of the authentic assessment is the development of rubrics. All of this will be discussed today. So you bear with me for at least an hour to discuss with you authentic evaluation or authentic assessment, I should say. So what for you is assessment? Can they recite? Can they participate through recitation? Would you like to talk? Who among you would like to give definition or your thoughts about what an assessment is? Okay. So let's continue. All right. So when we say assessment is the process of gathering information from different sources, including assignments, demonstrations, projects, performances, including tests. And then as part of assessment, teachers, peers, and individual students provide descriptive feedback that guides efforts for improvement, and assessment is ongoing. Assessment is supportive. So this is how we define assessment. Okay, so in addition, assessment is defined as a process of appraising something or someone. the act of gauging the quality, value, or importance. As against evaluation, evaluation is the process or shall we say, evaluation focuses on making a judgment about values, about numbers or performance of someone or something. Assessment is made to identify the level of performance of an individual, whereas evaluation is performed to determine the degree to which goals are attained. Okay, so if your score is 10 out of 10, we say that, well, you got a perfect score. But when we give a value to that, a perfect score, the meaning, if we give the meaning to that perfect score, then that is evaluation. So what does it mean when you have high score? I mean, a perfect score. So does it mean that you are very good? Does it mean that you are excellent? So if we give meaning to assessment, then we are giving evaluation. Now, when we talk about authentic assessment, it means providing assessment opportunities which are like tasks in the real world. So authentic assessments, assessments wherein students are asked to perform real-world tasks that demonstrate meaningful application of what they have learned. So it is based on challenging and engaging tasks which resemble the context in which adults do their work. So the advantage of authentic assessment is that authentic assessment provides opportunities to learn through completing a task, especially where feedback is given. An authentic assessment motivates students to engage with assessment because tasks are often relevant to their work, to their future career, or it is relevant to what they do every day. Authentic assessment allows a range of skills to be developed. Okay, so authentic assessment, the task yields a product through application of knowledge. It is challenging, it is meaningful. So when you apply what you have learned, it is authentic assessment. The context or the scenario, the environment must resemble a real life situation. And the criteria is similar to real world situations. So we'll be talking about the criteria later on. So what are these criteria? In what environment? What are the tasks that we are going to do when doing authentic assessment? So next slide. Okay, let us see. All right, so authentic assessment is also known as alternative assessment. So alternative assessment is different from the traditional assessment. I'll be talking about that later on. So it measures knowledge, skills, ability, or all of the above. Okay, it assesses both content and higher order thinking skills. So comparing it to the traditional assessment, just like fill in the blanks. Fill in the blanks is traditional assessment tools. What does fill in the blank measure? So it's more on remembering. It's more on memorizing. And so according to the Bloom's taxonomy, memorizing and remembering are the lowest order thinking skills. Whereas in authentic assessment, you are going to use what you've learned. It is both, it measures both knowledge as well as ability as well as skill. And then it assesses both content and higher order thinking skills or HOTS. So let's see, next slide. Okay, authentic assessment provides opportunities to demonstrate creativity, problem solving, decision making, evaluating. So these are all higher order thinking skills. So authentic assessment would develop among students higher order thinking skills like creativity, like problem solving, and decision making. Now, according to the Bloom's taxonomy, creativity is the highest thinking skill. So evaluating is also next to creating. If you recall the revised Bloom's taxonomy, the lowest thinking skill is remembering, followed by understanding, followed by applying, and then analyzing, and then evaluating, and finally creating. So the authentic assessment is reflective of standards. Let's see. All right. Now, let us compare, as I have said a while back, let us see the advantage or the difference of, let me see, sorry. All right, the advantage of having the authentic task or authentic assessment. All right, an authentic assessment is one which requires the student to use, as I have said, you're going to use knowledge, all the levels of the Bloom's taxonomy is in here. Okay, you are going to use knowledge, you're going to use the skills to produce a product or complete a performance or to make something. I mean, to perform a task. So you need to use knowledge, you need to use your skills. All of the skills and knowledge are being used in authentic tasks. Now, performance assessment requires students to demonstrate their knowledge, their skills, and their strategies, including their creativity in response to making a product or creating something. All right, so take a look. Memorizing a formula is not an authentic task. But if you're going to use the formula to solve a problem, for a mathematical problem or a problem in physics or in chemistry, then you are doing authentic task. So memorizing a formula or remembering something does not mean you are doing authentic task or authentic assessment. Whereas if you are going to use the formula to solve a given problem, a practical problem at that, then you are doing authentic assessment. Let us see. Next slide. All right. As to context or the setting or the environment should be real as possible. The setting should mimic or duplicate the context faced by professionals, citizens, and consumers. So, sitting for an exam in an exam room is not an authentic assessment. Whereas students researching about their community or writing a persuasive letter or making a speech or writing a research paper, then it is authentic assessment. As to criteria, as I mentioned a while back, we'll be talking about the criteria when we'll reach rubric. Criteria, an authentic assessment should be judged using criteria which are similar to those used to judge adults who perform or make products. Okay, so when you focus on mechanical errors, when judging a paper, for instance, a research paper, and you are only focusing on the mechanical errors as to grammar, as to the way the paper is written, then you are not doing authentic assessment. Whereas if you are judging a paper based on organization, as to content, as to the richness of the paper, then you are doing authentic task. Now, let us proceed to the difference between traditional and authentic assessment. Now, traditional assessment, just like the fill in the blanks or multiple choice test, requires right answer. Okay, you have noticed in your exams, in written exams, in midterms, or in any, for instance, in an entrance exam or final exam, you are asked to read the questions carefully and select the best answer from the choices that follow. All right, you always see that, and then the test would require you right answer. Whereas alternative assessment requires high quality performance or product along with justifications or decisions. Okay, what makes it authentic? Students must be able to think through why they made decisions that resulted in the final product. So it is more real life as compared to traditional. Okay. Now, for the traditional assessment, it says here, questions must be unknown to students in advance. Of course, who among us know the questions in the multiple choice test? The teachers won't give us that. Whereas for authentic assessment, or sometimes alternative assessment, that the guide is given to students. The instructions, the questions, the purpose must be known to students in advance for the students to evaluate, to assess themselves whether they can perform the task or not. So the tasks that are to be judged should be known ahead of time so that students will be able to pass the exams. All right, so the rubrics should be given to students in advance. Okay, we'll do rubrics later on. Now, the traditional assessment is disconnected from the real world, tied to the real world context and constraints. Okay, whereas for alternative assessment, it requires students to solve realistic problem. And then, let us see in the next slide. The traditional assessment includes isolations of skills, and it focuses on facts. What is the capital city of India? What is the summer capital of the Philippines? All of these are based on facts, and these are traditional questions. I mean, these are tests which are called traditional tests. Now, for alternative assessment or authentic assessment, a range of skills or knowledge need to be integrated in order to solve a problem. For instance, you were given a task of making a bridge out of barbecue sticks. So you need to look into the characteristics of the barbecue sticks and how you would make it strong. So to make a very strong bridge out of barbecue sticks. All right, so what makes it authentic? Tasks are multi-step and multifaceted. All right, this is what we get from traditional assessment. It is easily scored. Traditional assessments are easily scored. You just count the number of correct answers, and then you will get the scores. But for alternative assessment, it is very difficult to score the authentic assessment because there are a lot of things to be considered. These things include complex tasks for which there may not be a right answer, but they can be useful in making the project. Okay. So what makes it authentic? Meaningful assessment and feedback is emphasized. And then traditional assessment is one-shot approach, whereas authentic assessment is iterative in nature, and knowledge and skills are used in more than one way. Okay, for traditional again, given a score, and then for alternative assessment, there is an opportunity to provide diagnostic feedback. You may fail in the first trial, in the first attempt, but in the final attempt, you may be successful. All right, what makes it authentic? It is designed to give practical experience and improve future performances. All right, so what are some examples of authentic assessments? Model building, measurement taking, oral reports, written reports, laboratory reports, even debates can be classified out as authentic assessment. Making of portfolios, making of journals, even students talk, active listening, concept mapping, open-ended questions, and many more. Just like this, abstract, annotated bibliography, autobiography, blog. Blog is very, very popular now, especially with the presence of the multimedia, blog and vlog. Okay, making brochures, the case analysis, cognitive map, and so on and so forth. The diary, the making a letter to the principal, making letter to your advisor, or making a letter to an editor, to the president, making a plan, making a menu, making a meal plan, I should say, preparing multimedia presentation, making an essay. All right. Podcast is also popular now. Review of literature. Okay. Summarizing something. I mean, summarizing, for instance, a novel. You summarize The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. Yes, etc., etc. Now, traditional exams or traditional assessments include, as I have said a while back, multiple choice questions, matching type, short answer questions, true or false, final test and standardized tests, answer questions at the end of the chapter, fill in the blanks, etc. This would require our ability to memorize facts, ability to remember facts. And at times, there are also instances that we need to analyze. But most often, the traditional assessments would require students to memorize and remember things, which is, as I've said, we are developing the law order thinking instead of developing among our students the higher order thinking skills. All right, so let us see. Okay. All right, for traditional, you select a response. For authentic, you perform a task. Traditional is contrived test, whereas authentic, real life scenarios. Traditional allows you to recall, to memorize, to recognize, whereas for authentic, you need to construct, you need to apply what you've learned. And traditional is teacher structured, whereas authentic is student structured. And then for traditional, it has indirect evidence, whereas for authentic assessment, it gives the teacher direct evidence. Okay, so authentic assessment asks students to demonstrate understanding by, as I have said a while back, by performing a more complex task, usually representative of more meaningful application. You can make use of your knowledge, of your skills, of your creativity, etc. Okay, when you make task. All right, I have talked about this a while back. Authentic assessment asks students to demonstrate proficiency by doing something, performing something. Okay, construction of knowledge or application of knowledge, so are involved in authentic assessment, and at times and oftentimes authentic assessment asks students to analyze, synthesize, and apply what they have learned in, this is what I like, what they have learned in a substantial manner, and students create new meaning in the process as well. So again, in authentic assessment, you are given lots of choices. Unlike in traditional assessment, you only have one choice. But for authentic assessment, there are many ways of doing it. There is a wide array of choices in which you can produce or solve a problem. It's just like There are many ways to dress a chicken. There are many ways to kill a cat. All right. So authentic assessment is just like that. Even when students cannot choose their own topics or formats, there are usually multiple ways to create a product or performance. Okay. So for instance, in presenting a report in the class, in any way you want, you can make use of the PowerPoint presentation. You can make video. You can make voiceover. In what manner you like, you can solve the project. I mean, you can make the product in any way you want, because in authentic assessment, in alternative assessment, you have many choices, unlike the traditional. Okay. In authentic assessment, authentic assessments offer more evidence of application and construction of knowledge. So we can see immediately the skills being used, the creativity of the students can be seen immediately with the use of authentic assessment. Okay. So let's see. Okay, sorry for that. Why do we use authentic assessment? Why? Why do we need to consider authentic assessment? Okay, as I look into the grading system of the education department in our country, before the weight is given to weight there is a higher percentage in computing the grades of students. There is a high percentage in tests, but now in the Department of Education, it can be seen that performance is 60% as compared to the written exams, which is just 20%. Before, during my time as a teacher in the secondary education, I have noticed that giving grades to students is higher in terms of the test, traditional test. But now it has changed totally. Let us see why. Why authentic assessment? Why do we need to use authentic assessment? Because there is a dissatisfaction of the limited information obtained from selected response tests. Why there is a limited information? You cannot gauge the performance of the students once you look into the result of the test. Why? Because there is a limited information that we can get from traditional assessment. Whereas in authentic assessment, you can see the application of knowledge, of skills, and there are many evidences that the students have learned when you use authentic assessment. All right. As well as, why do we need to use authentic assessment? Because the cognitive psychology says learning is not, I mean, performance cannot only be evaluated through learning the clarities, but also the procedural knowledge as well. Okay. And then at times, conventional tests or traditional tests have negative impact on the students. Okay. So authentic assessment is also appropriate in experiential, discovery-based, integrated, problem-based learning approaches. So now, what are the forms of alternative or authentic assessment? All right. One is oral or psychomotor skills without a product. Example of this would be oral presentation, folk dance, playing basketball or volleyball. It could be a written or psychomotor skills with a product. Example of this would be written compositions, project plan, a thesis, construction of improvised materials, vlog, etc. Okay? And there are two types. We have the restricted type, which targets a narrowly defined skill, and the response is very brief. For instance, construction of a bar graph from the data given, reading an article from a newspaper, and then answering the questions given, or answering the questions at the summary of a given chapter in the book. Now, another is the extended type. It is more complex, it is elaborate, it is time consuming. Have you tried doing a video presentation? It is time consuming and it is complex. It is very hard to do. Okay, it is. It usually requires a variety of sources of information. It allows integration of content areas and skills. An example of this is this. I'm going to read to you. You go to the zoo and tour the place with a partner. You can hold hands when you are walking in the zoo. I'm just joking. You prepare a matrix indicating the 10 most liked animals in the zoo, their kind and descriptions, their habitat, their food, the country of origin, and other interesting information learned about it. And then share your work to the whole class. Or if you wish, a very good one today, it's very relevant. You go outside and then make a survey on who is going to be the next president of the Republic of the Philippines. Or if you may, we would have a survey on who would be the next mayor in your locality. So this is an extended type of work, of assessment. There are many things to do. As I have said, it is elaborate, it is tedious, it's time consuming. But at the end of the day, this will teach you lots of skills. It will entail lots of inputs. It would require you to make researches, etc., etc. Okay, so the next thing for us to do is, how do we plan authentic assessment? How will we do it? First, you need to identify the competency that has to be demonstrated by the students with or without product. You look into the list of competencies in your syllabus, and then you select the competency wherein students can demonstrate what they have learned through that competency, and then they're going to make a product or demonstrate something. And then the next thing for you to do is to create tasks that elicit the behavior. Describe the task to be done by the students. It can be done individually. It can be done as a group. What are the resources needed? What is the time allotment? And the other requirements to be able to assess the focus competency. So you need to be clear about this. That's what I have said a while back, that authentic assessment, in authentic assessment, the students need to know in advance what are the things they need to do. Okay. So next is, make sure that you include both subject matter content and a set of skills or operations that a successful student would exhibit. And then decide what kind of guidance you can provide. How can you help your students? Okay. So decide what kind of help or guidance you can give your students while allowing your students to learn independently. Do not help them make the assignment or make the assessment, but instead you help them by guiding them on how they can complete the task successfully. And then try the assessment out and make revisions as necessary. If you find out that the task is very easy or it's too difficult for the level of your students, then you make revisions when necessary. Of course, do not forget to make scoring rubric. The scoring rubric reflects the criteria, the levels of performance, and the scores of the students. Okay, Here are some questions you might consider to when planning authentic assessment. Do you want to test acquisition of content knowledge or the ability to apply that knowledge? Do you want to assess a product that a student has produced, or do you want to assess the process by which they produce it? Okay. For instance, if you want to produce, if you want to assess the Filipino students making biryani, or how do you, if you want to assess the product, the biryani as a product, or would you like to assess the process by which they made the biryani? Okay. Do you want to assess any of the following? Writing ability, the speaking skills, creativity, use of technology, or collaboration. You can select from these activities. Okay. So what's the time allotment for the completion of the work or the project? What kind of content knowledge should students be able to demonstrate, and what level? Do you like to have the lowest order or the highest level? Okay. What higher order thinking skills you want the students to develop and be able to demonstrate? As I have said, if you allow exhibition of memory, that's remembering, the slower order thinking. Whereas if you like to look into creativity, evaluating or making judgment, so looking into quality of work based on a set of criteria, then you are looking into higher order thinking skill. Which assessment methods would allow you to understand how well students are achieving learning outcomes? Did you include more than one assessment type in your course? So these are some of the questions you might consider in planning authentic assessment. Now, let's look into the rubric. What is a rubric? Okay, it says here, a rubric is a lesson in quality. It's a public declaration of expectation. This is what you need to give your students when you plan to have authentic assessment. You should be ready of the rubric, and the rubric should be given ahead of time for students to look into, and then they will be able to assess themselves if they will be successful in making the task. It's a communication tool. It's a self-assessment tool. It gauges the performance of the students, and it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're given the rubric ahead of time, then you can assure yourself that you can succeed, or you will be successful in performing the task. All right. There are parts of a rubric. This includes standards of excellence, the criteria, and indicators. Now, when we say standards of excellence, we look into the degrees of quality. It should be in even number. It should be in a language or numbers, and this gives the weight. Okay. Just like in judging a singing competition, you need to have standards of excellence. Okay. Now, the criteria in any contest or in any activity, assessment activity, you need to have criteria. What are the specific areas for assessment? What are the focus areas for instruction? The criteria should be clear and relevant, and it should be appropriate according to the age of your students. And then the form and function should be represented. Now, the next is the indicators. These are descriptions of level of performance for the criteria. For instance, your degrees of excellence, it says there that if there are 4, how will a student get a score of 4 So yes, you should have the descriptions to which the students can be able to have the perfect score. So you will see this later on. Okay, it should be clear and it should be observable. It should be in observable language. It should be clear to the learner, and examples for the learners will also be given. Now, I'm going to give you an example for this. The cookie dilemma. How will you evaluate a cookie? All right. So this is adopted from an expert. So what do you call this? Overall taste, texture, color, number, chocolate chips richness. Can we call this as criteria? Okay. So these are the cookie elements or dimensions. Now, the range of performance for a chocolate chip cookie: delicious 7 to 8, tasty 5 to 6, edible 3 to 4, yuck 1 or 2. Okay. So this is a cookie rubric. Now, let's look into the criteria and the standards of excellence. Let's see. Okay. So as to number of chips, it is considered delicious or it has a score of 7 to 8 if there is a chip in every bite. That's according to number of chips. But if there are too few chips, then the score would be 1 to 2. Okay? For texture, if it is chewy, then it's delicious, considered delicious. But it tastes like a dog biscuit, well, it's considered yuck, or the score is just 1 or 2. Or have you tasted a dog biscuit anyway? Then as to color, if it is golden brown, then it is considered delicious. But it is burned, then it would be the other way around. As to overall taste, if it is home-baked taste, as compared to tasteless, it is edible when it's tasteless. But it would score 3 or 4. If it tastes terrible, it tastes stale, then the score would be 1 to 2. According to richness, if it is very rich, it's creamy, it's high in fat, and then it's delicious. And if it has medium fat content, it's just tasty, it's a low fat flavor, it's edible, and then non-fat flavor, it scores 1 to 2. Well, it's not that good. All right, so this is a sample of a rubric. It is called the cookie rubric. Okay. Now there are two kinds of rubrics. We have the holistic rubric, which describes the overall quality of performance or product. And then analytical rubric or analytic rubric describes the quality of a performance or product in relation to a specific criterion. Now, this is an example of a rubric for, as I have said, you need to identify the competency. You need to look to the task, and then you need to have the description of the task for the students to be guided. Now, if the competency is write a summary to survey reports in a given issue, and then the task is a group oral presentation of the summary of the survey report for their chosen issue, and then the description of the task, the students will decide on the topic. They will prepare their survey form, gather their own data, summarize the data, and they will present the report orally in the class. Okay, so the description of the task, it says here the time of presentation. We have talked about this. We should give the time frame, and then the numbers of number of members. What are the materials? So everything should be clear. Okay. Now, the criteria for evaluation. This is now the rubrics that I'm talking about. Okay. Let's look into this. For instance, I have here the summary of survey report, 10% for relevance, completeness 20%, clarity of info 10%, accuracy of ideas 10%. During the oral presentation, effectiveness of presentation, mastery of the content, and time management. Now, there is also a provision here for individual performance in the group. Okay. Now let's look into the analytic rubric. So you can give 4 if for instance the criteria and indicators are here. Relevance of the chosen topic, it concerns the students. It is an issue in the country at present. If the topic satisfies both given indicators, then you can give 4, or the students can get 4. The teacher can give 4. Okay. When the topic satisfies only the first indicator, you can give 3. Okay. If the topic satisfies only the second indicator, you can give 2. And then if the topic satisfies none of the given indicator, you can give 1. All right. So this is how we make the rubric. Okay. So, okay. Another example is this, the completeness. All right. And so on and so forth. Okay. All right. Accuracy of ideas, excellent. When the work is free from any given types of errors. Okay, 4 points. When the work has 1 to 2 errors and given types of errors, 3. And then the work has 3 to 4 errors. The work has 5 or more errors. The students get 1. Okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, I can give you this later. Now, this is an analytic rubric. Okay. Let me just finish this. And then, all right, this is an example of holistic rubric. It's very easy. The competency is constructing a bar graph. Okay. The task is for students to make a bar graph worth 20 points. Okay. So the given task requires the individual students to construct a bar graph showing realistic data for a maximum of 1 hour. I believe this could be this is good for elementary students or even the younger ones. Okay. Now in grading, level 6, if it's outstanding, it satisfies more than the given qualities of work. It is submitted ahead of time. It presents complete information. It shows realistic data, shows texts that are free from errors, has visual appeal, and others. At times, the teachers would be just be looking at the neatness or the color or the visual appeal of the work of students. Whereas if you have the rubrics, you have this criteria, then the teacher will be guided on how the students are being graded. Okay, outstanding. And then if the student satisfies only 5 given qualities of work, is given or she's given 95. Satisfies only 4 of the given work, 90. And then satisfies 3 of the given qualities of work, 85. Satisfies only 2 of the given qualities of work, 80. When it needs improvement, it satisfies only 1, 75. And then no work given, 70. All right. So this is an example of a holistic rubric. All right. So this is just another example. Okay. All right. I believe, what's the advantage of holistic rubric? Okay. If you are into fast assessment, then make use of holistic rubric. It provides 1 score to describe a performance, but the disadvantage is that it does not pinpoint the specific strength and weakness of the students. Okay. It does not permit differential weighing of the qualities of performance. And for analytic rubric, the advantages are it considers several phases of performance. It helps teachers pinpoint the specific areas. It allows the difference weighing of performance. Okay. Yes, it pinpoints the strengths and weaknesses of the students. Okay, the disadvantage is that it is time consuming as compared to the holistic rubric. And then the students may have the same score even if they differ in qualities of work. I believe this is an advantage more than a disadvantage when students may have the same score, even if they differ in the qualities of their work. Okay, so according to Aristotle, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. Good afternoon, thank you, and I hope you have gained something from the lecture that I have given today. Magandang hapon, good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you very much, Sir President, for the indulgence of having with you in this faculty exchange between Quirino State University and Adamas University, India. Indeed, I'm mesmerized. I know that you missed the connection between and among our learners. And I know for a fact that you are a teacher by heart, and that passion in teaching is really within you. That's why when I was formulating the topics together with Dr. Pragyan, you are the first shot that I had for the list of lecturers for this program. Again, ladies and gentlemen, our lecturer for today is our very own University President, Dr. Herminihildo F. Samoy Jr., who was once and will always be a practitioner of authentic assessment, including alternative assessment. So with that, I now open the floor for question and answer portion of this lecture series. If you have questions, then you may simply click the raise, what's that? The hands button under the reaction section of Zoom, and then we will acknowledge you. Okay. I'm sorry, I did not change the background. Sorry for that. May we hear some, sir? I would be okay. I think Sir Abhishek. Okay.
Yes, sir.
May I acknowledge Sir Abhishek?
Yes. Good afternoon, faculty members from India. Good afternoon, sir. So it is been a privilege for me to give a vote of thanks for this exclusive 2-month faculty exchange program for which has been organized between Quirino State University and Adamas University, India. So I would like to thank Honorable President Quirino State University, Dr. H.F. Samoy Jr. Sir, to present his topic, authentic assessment. And we are really enlightened to get such a wonderful topic and the explanation on the same. And thank you so much, sir, for being so elaborative and explain the topic in such a lucid language. We thank from Adamas University, from the faculty members and students from India. And I would like to thank also Dr. Bautista for continuous organization of this 2 months long faculty exchange program. And the next session would be on 25th of April by the eminent resource person from Quirino State University. So with this, I again thank you all, and especially to our Honorable President, Dr. Samoy Jr. Sir, and Bautista. With this, I'm ending the program session for today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Sir Abhishek, for the kind words for today's lecture. Having no reactions from the participants, then I presume and I assume that the lecture is well understood, as I totally understand what Dr. Samoy delivered us a while back. So on the 25th of April, what is that? What day is that? So a week from now, okay, next week we do not have our session, but on Monday, that's April 25, we are going to have another lecture on distance education, alternative learning system beyond borders by Dr. Evelyn C. Casareno of Quirino State University. And on the 29th of April, that's going to be Friday, will be the last day of the faculty exchange program with Dr. Pragyan on conducting action research, devising an intervention program with implementation. And on the same date, okay, I am happy to inform everybody that we will finally ink the Memorandum of Understanding between Quirino State University and Adamas University along teaching and research. And we have been doing this for how many months now? So since November, we were doing activities even without the Memorandum of Understanding between the two universities. But I appreciate Adamas University for doing that, for being our big brother in the academy. So without much ado, the last code is letter D. The last code is letter D, and you may now do the attendance sheet for today. So thank you very much, and see you again on April 25 and 29th, respectively, for the last leg of our 2-month-long exclusive faculty exchange with Adamas University. Thank you very much, and namaste, shukriya, and mabuhay, at maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. Thank you very much, and see you again soon.
See you soon in
Thank
India.
you very much, Dr.
Sure, sir.
Tamoy. Yeah, of course.
So we are eagerly waiting for.
Yeah,
visit.
actually, we were advised to make advances this time, not only through Zoom, but they advised us to visit you. So probably when there will be time for us to visit you, I hope that they will come soon. And if there will be opportunities, really, I want to visit India. We were advised to take the next step to see you, because other universities have gone to Canada and other parts of the world.
We would be eagerly waiting for that.
Yeah, I hope that that time will be soon. Okay, we'll just make some clearances, and probably if we will be invited, you will be giving us a formal invitation, then that would be the next step. Okay, so I hope to see India soon, or you coming
Definitely,
here in our place. So
Yes, we will be waiting for
yeah.
you, sir. Sure,
Yeah,
sir.
thank you very much. Thank you. All right, with that, I would like also to say thank you for considering me as one of your lecturers. I really missed teaching. I love teaching very much. So this is another way for me to recall everything. I taught assessment for how many years, and I need to go back to my notes last night, and I have completed the slides just this morning because of my busy schedules. But really, I love teaching, and actually, I have another meeting, but I chose the meeting with you today. So after our meeting, I will attend. I'll just be catching the meeting next to this meeting. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you for considering me as one of your lecturers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. So it is indeed a privilege for us also to hear from you, sir. So it is also equally privileged. We are equally privileged for that, sir.
You can invite me again for a next
Sure, sir.
lecture.
You
I
are
would love to.
Sir, you are rather invited, sir.
Yeah.
For
Thank
sure,
you.
sir, you will be one of the members of the roster that we are going to design in the next faculty exchange between our university and AU. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
With that, thank you very much, and see you again soon. Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much, Adamas University.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.